growing?
So three main things tonight. One, I've said a note about tree wardens, because I just thought it'd be interesting if anybody was a tree warden now to tell us about it. The second one is about what the Elms Project, how far the Elms Project is getting on, and what can we more people do about it now Clare has got it in hand and ready to roll. And the third one I wanted to talk about was actually, I've got a call from a guy at Stourhead who wants some help planting 190,000 trees. So that was sort of the final one. Anyway, so if we start out with Clare and you running through the what the leaflet looks like, what the plan is, how do we want to get it out? We can talk about that around the table if you like. Good.
Okay, so first things first, is everybody here in my little email group? Because I emailed out this afternoon to my group with a, Mel, you're not, are you? Ooh, sorry, you're muted.
Yeah, I was trying not to create background difficulties.
Yeah.
No, I didn't get an email from you, put it that way.
No, do you want to be on the email group? Shall I add you?
Yeah,
because I just realized you. Right, okay. Could you just put your email in the chat for me?
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. Right, so where we are is that we've got the leaflet more or less finalised. I sent it out, but it hasn't got the contact details. But I think, Julian, we can finalise that and use the leaflet now. Question is what we're going to do with the leaflet. And the second thing we've got is the poster, which we could put up in places. So that's the sort of paperwork side of it. We need to still develop the sort of how it's going to be distributed side of it, which is what I was emailing about today. So we need a sort of network of people who are spread out across the county if we're going to do it the way we envisage. So just to recap what how the project was envisaged, the project is sort of twofold. It's to plant trees, obviously, and it's to plant an iconic tree in, say, a parish or wherever, if that's what people want to do. But it's also to raise the awareness of local groups, whatever local group you might belong to, and to raise the awareness of Wiltshire Climate Alliance. The idea is that people would get together and say, we'd like to have an elm tree so that everybody in Wiltshire is not too far away from an elm tree. Or this is the elm tree we planted, in our park or on our green or whatever it is, so that communities would decide that's what they want to do. And that's either as a single planting, like, say, if you'd had a planting for the Queen's Green Canopy, it's just a tree, or it's part of a more general planting scheme, and there's an elm in there somewhere. So I know where there's an elm where I go. It's not in a park or anywhere like that, but I can go and visit this elm. And if I wanted to show somebody elm, I know where to go. So that's the idea of it. So in order to achieve that, we need to have that spread out. We also need to think about the sort of knowledge base of the people who are doing it, which is what I was referring to in the email I sent out this afternoon. So we need people in Wiltshire Climate Alliance, whether they're particularly interested in this or not, or elms or not, at least to say, oh, this is going on, and know about this scheme. They might be more interested in energy or transport or whatever it is, but if they could at least tell somebody about this scheme, I think that's important, because lots of people are working on other things, aren't they, other than the actual Elms group. Just to say that it's happening, that's number one. Number two, we do need people who are prepared to go out and be the sort of public face of Wiltshire Climate Alliance. And my idea was that hopefully we've got somebody who's not too far from most places, i.e. somewhere, I'm close to lots of places in the south of Wiltshire, somebody else is going to be within range. So this takes me back to a previous life which I had, which was, something happened to my batteries there, which was as a fundraiser for Marie Curie Cancer Care. And so I used to go out in this life that I had, and I used to do little sort of stunts, usually involving children or animals were the best ones. That always seemed to appeal. And then so that you had some sort of publicity thing showing this is our tree, this is where we planted it, here's somebody from Wiltshire, you know, you just like you do in the paper, you have, or in your village newsletter or whatever it is, you have a picture showing that this is, I don't know, whoever it is, Avon Needs Trees or whoever, and this is someone from Wiltshire Climate Alliance, and they've got together, and this is what that project is about. So Wiltshire Climate Alliance would write, as it were, write the blurb for that, so that there would be a ready-made package for people to adapt to publicise their tree planting. So that's all quite simple, which is decide where you want a tree, decide when you're going to plant it, organise a little get together, A, to dig the hole, B, to actually plant it, and then have somebody, hopefully from Wiltshire Climate Alliance, come along and, you know, create an event. You know, it's like politics, isn't it? You know, when you see the politicians, it looks like there's a huge crowd of people. When they zoom out a bit, it's only three men and a dog, and they're pretending to be 100 people, that sort of thing. But it, you know, it sort of creates a profile. So so that's that side of it. The technical side of it is more tricky, because we've got all these different types of elm tree. Now I've got Peter who's offering to supply certain elm trees, and I just revisited what he's told me, Peter Shelburne, and he's envisaging that these would be ready in January. So to plant, because he's got to get them ready, and then they'd be ready after Christmas, which I thought would be quite a good time, actually. Although probably some people would want to do it before. But there's various different types, and also what are people's expectations of the tree? Because we have a leaflet showing a towering, gorgeous English elm, but of course these different varieties and so on may not turn out to be like that. So we've got to be sure that people know what they're getting, and that
do we have pictures of the
no, I don't. No, I don't have pictures of what these elms are like, and that's the thing. We need to say they might be like this, and of course it might vary depending on how they're grown, the position, and the conditions. In relation to the poor deceased sycamore in the on Hadrian's Wall, I mean that grew to a great shape, didn't it? But it didn't have any competition. Whereas, you know, if you grow an elm tree in a copse or something, it's going to go, you know, according to the amount of light and neighbours that it's got and that sort of thing. So anyway, but I think people need to be aware. Oh, Nicola, please help me. You'll know more about this. Can't hear you, Nicola.
It may be on your headphones that it's not working properly.
Can you hear Nicola?
No. You're not muted, but we can't hear you for some reason.
Yes.
Something to do with your headset.
Okay.
We're not hearing. Could you try turning your headset off for a moment and see whether it works off your computer?
Can't hear you at all, Nicola.
We can't hear you at all. And we're very bad at lip reading.
You want to put something in the chat as to what you were?
Okay, well, Nicola, type away carefully. So
Okay.
I think we should be, if there's a way of giving some sort of idea of what the ones we're getting look like, and it doesn't matter whether a specimen tree or in a copse. I think we've got to give people an idea, because as you say, if we look at the English elm, beautiful trees, but if you put them into a woodland, maybe they're not. I don't know. So what do the Spanish ones look like, or whoever wherever we're buying them from? Because there must be pictures of full-grown ones out there, wherever they're coming from. So can he not provide? Can't your contact provide pictures?
Well, I haven't got pictures at the moment, Bill, but we do need to have an idea of what these pictures are. I imagine there are pictures I can search out when I can do that. Yeah, I'll certainly work on that. Okay. For people, but also it's a question of what people's expectations are in terms of elms. Do they know anything about elms? Does that matter to them, what the elm looks like? Are they interested in elms, or are they interested in the picture? Because it's important to me what the elm looks like, but it might just not actually be that important to other people. I don't know, you see. So that's one aspect to it. The other aspect to it is, do people actually know how to set about planting trees and caring for trees? Because I think the aftercare side of it is really important, because there's nothing worse, and we've had this in the last couple of years, of everybody having trees that have been planted and everybody saying, oh, they're all dead now, or that was snapped off, or what have you. And I think we need to think about, are we going to support people to do a replacement tree if it doesn't take after a year, or something like that. I think it needs to be thought through. Is this a project where we go along and for 6 months we do something, or whatever it is, and then we disappear off and everyone's left to their own devices, or isn't it? Is it an ongoing thing? I think that
comes back to the other subject we're going to talk about today. If we have tree wardens, then maybe the tree wardens could be actually helping to manage and warden the trees wherever they're being planted. Yeah, so that's why I was trying to link the two together, because I saw.
Yes, no, I think that's really important. I mean, but this goes to my other life, the other sort of things I used to do, which is, for example, if you have involvement with certain types of things like counselling, you'd say at the beginning, you're going to have 6 sessions and that's it, or you'll have so many sessions, that's it. You don't say, oh, we're here forever as Wiltshire Climate Alliance helping you look after this tree. We might say, yeah, we will help you plant it and publicise it in it, and then you must find a tree warden, or you must become tree wardens. We've got to be very, very clear as to what people in their communities need to do. I think that's my point, really, because we wouldn't have the manpower to sort of keep dashing backwards and forwards.
Absolutely
healing
not.
Tree or something.
So hang on, Margaret wants to say something, and then Hazel.
Margaret.
You're muted.
Yeah, I'm not now. Yeah, I went along, when I first heard about this, I went along to Devizes Town Council to their sustainability and biodiversity group and said that we're going to have this project. Do they want some trees? And they said, oh, yes, because we know exactly where they were, because the baby trees are still trying to grow. That, wherever the seed has fallen underneath the iconic elm, the babies are still popping up, but they only grow so far before they die.
I don't think that's going to be seeds. I think that's going to be suckers. So that's that's a very good point, though.
Yeah, anyway, they're keen to have replacement elms, and they know where they've got to go. So,
well, that's the question. Is it advisable to put them there? That's what I think we need advice on that. That's a very good point. I've not thought of that before.
Well, they're really only talking about the iconic ones, the ones that had grown to their full 100 years and then gone clunk, rather than a row of elms or whatever. That's what their plan is, to replace iconic ones. So they would
Because
be interested in
if
doing
those
that.
suckers are coming up, and reaching a stage where they're being attacked again, then that's a site of disease, isn't it? So there's a general rule: you don't replant something in a place where
I
you've
thought
had
the
a
whole
problem
point
before.
was that the ones that we're planting are resistant, so they don't, because they did actually try injecting some of their
Oh,
big
right.
to try and
Okay.
save them,
Yeah.
and that didn't work.
No, I think we need a bit of, it's a very good point. It's not something that's occurred to me before, because generally in anything where you're planting something to replace something that's died in your garden, for example, you wouldn't put it in the same place. So I don't know. It's a pity we can't hear Leslie, because I'm sure she'd Nicola, she'd have a view on that.
She's going to try. She's going to
Maybe
try
she's
and
trying to
sort
sort her computer out or something. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I'm thinking at the moment, Claire, that potentially, sorry, Margaret, I just if we could contact the council and get one of the woodland officers to help us. They're supposed to be experts.
Yeah, that's a very good idea. Yeah.
Mel, and then Hazel. Was it Hazel next? Yeah, Hazel.
Sorry to interrupt you. It's I don't want to be too negative actually over this, but last Wednesday we've only got a small but natural back garden, but we have a very long hedge, and which is very tall. So last year my husband fell off a ladder trying to cut it. So now we have a tree surgeon come in twice a year to trim the top, and nice guy, and lives in Winsley. And his assistant came on last Wednesday to trim our long hedge, our elderflower, and our buddleia tree. And obviously I talk a lot, so I got into conversation with him about the elm trees, etc., and the meetings of WCA. And he was absolutely flabbergasted. And he said, "How about the ash trees?" He said, "I can't tell you how many ash trees are being cut down now in Wiltshire." And I didn't know anything about that, So that was an actual tree surgeon very worried about it, So what are we doing in Wiltshire? That's the thing.
Well, just to digress onto ash trees. Ash trees are dying, apace, but there are resistant ash trees. I've got one at the bottom of my garden. Well, my neighbour grew an ash tree in the most inconvenient, annoying place, and it seems to be full of health and vigor. There's no sign it's going to die anytime soon. Could say unfortunately, but now I've grown to love it because it's just alive. So there are ash trees that are standing singly are surviving. Millions of ash trees will die. And actually, I went on a trip round Whiteham Woods in Oxford. I don't know if you know about Whiteham Woods recently. It's the most studied woodland in the world. And the director of Whiteham Woods was very pessimistic about the ash tree. On the other hand, where I go, ash seedlings are coming up like mustard and cress everywhere. So because it does seed everywhere, I'm sort of more thinking there will be more scope for replanting generally with ash trees. But again, I don't know what other people would think about that. Whereas the elms have gone, I mean, you could still go and see an ash tree and still will be able to, I'm thinking, I might be wrong, but I'm thinking you would still be able to go and see an ash tree, 10, 20 years from here now in your locality. You can't see an elm tree for lots of people.
So what we're saying basically, I think, is that we should keep that at the back of our minds, but our focus at the moment is launching a program of elm tree planting, and if that means that follows up by an ash tree planting, that's fine. But I think
exactly.
we should sort of focus
and I think if you look at the literature,
area.
We have said elms or other iconic species. So if people came back and said, "Oh, I'm not interested in elm, I'd like to know all about ashes," then we could follow that up, definitely. Yeah.
But again, I think we need that expert, don't we, to help us in guiding us through that.
He was more put out because the actual county was seen to be cutting them down, and he couldn't understand why they were cutting them down rather than letting them grow. That's the
well, a lot are being cut down for safety reasons. So on the reserve where I go to, all the ones by the paths have been cut because obviously you don't want them falling down on anyone. but in the woodland they're being left, and some are sort of struggling on, but the
Ian.
evidence is quite clear that where they stand alone, not surrounded by the trees, you know, quite a few are surviving. Yeah.
Ian, you were going to say something and then decided not to, or you?
Sorry, I was just going to add, I was at Westonbirt recently, and they're actually seeing ash trees that have been infected and are now recovering. So they're not cutting them down, they're waiting to see how they go. Their problem, they say, like the council, is if it's overlying public paths or something, because they can suddenly drop a bough without warning, the safety principle tends to kick in too early. But from a biological principle, they are seeing ash trees that are recovering. Again, it's a slight diversion from the Elm project.
Sorry.
Oh, it's all right. I think we should. Trees are important. Okay.
And I think local knowledge is really important. So Hazel, what you're saying about your guys, you know, local knowledge, that's really important as well, isn't it? For your local patch, yeah.
So I'll get in touch with the woodland officers in the council and try and persuade them to give us some serious advice on how we deal with the elms and how they can help us in terms of encouraging their tree wardens to look after them after we have helped them get them and plant them. I think it's got to be a process of where do you want getting people excited about planting them, getting a source for them to go and get them, and then really we've got to think about how we manage the next bit, because we have 9 people here at the moment. That's a big spread across the county. Unless we get 100 of our members to help, it's never going to be able to go and manage the trees properly. So we've got to be able to say, look, we're turning it over to you.
Can I offer a disclosure, Bill, that I've actually recently enrolled as a tree warden?
Okay, great.
Good.
I don't know if anybody else here has done likewise, but I went along to the meeting at Trowbridge just to see what was going on. Not that I know anything about trees yet, but obviously it's opened me up a whole barrage of information through the Tree Council. But very much the sort of 3 parts they want the tree wardens to do is know about the right tree in the right place and the right care. Being able to look after those trees for the long term to see them growing on, and to encourage the public awareness and respect for trees. So there's a lot of sort of education, trying to get small groups together, maybe under the dare I say, the leadership of a tree warden or somebody enthusiastic to adopt a tree or adopt a small coppice or something like that. So, you know, I think boosting the tree warden system, it's only just arrived in Wiltshire. They've only just realised it's here. And there's a lot of enthusiasm, hopefully, to be gained out of that.
Okay, we're diverting slightly to item 2 on our agenda, but have you got, while I think about it, have you got a network of tree wardens in Wiltshire you're now part of?
I know of 3 others in my local area, but there were 40 of them in Wiltshire that turned up to Trowbridge, and they all signed up. Now, going back through the sort of Tree Council and Tree Warden scheme, we can probably link with those as well. Yeah,
I think because it's a good way of publishing what we're doing, Claire.
Yes.
If we can email all of those.
Yes.
Sorry, no,
enthusiasts, those signed up enthusiasts, and go from there.
I would correct Ian, actually, that there always have been tree wardens, actually, but what happened was a few years ago, council cuts, etc., meant there was in South Wiltshire, a whole department got cut, which had people who used to train tree wardens and all sorts, sadly, because I was at the start of this a few years ago when I joined the local parish council, and we actually they sent me some books in the end, because I said, look, we want to have some tree wardens locally. So about 6 people sort of, you know, joined together, and basically we keep an eye on the trees. I mean, I just wanted to say a couple of things. The main reason they die is because people don't water them. It's simple. We've had some severe extreme weather, and you know, you just have to keep watering them for 2 years. And the next thing is one thing that is happening in South Wiltshire. Shane Verrian, by the way, Bill, is the arboricultural officer at Wiltshire Council. He's very good, but he's very overstretched.
Mhm.
and he's got two people working for him on a 2-year secondment.
They're the woodland officers, yeah.
Yeah,
There's three of
and
them.
what one of them said to me was they're trying to encourage people to grow willows because we've got a lot of flooding issues in the area. Certainly in our Salisbury area we have with in our village, for example, there's a lot of underground springs and things like that, and you've got 5 rivers coming in, and willows are excellent for taking up some of that water.
Just
Yeah,
a
but
thought.
they die very quickly if they don't get any.
Well, yeah, you've got to put them where the water is.
We had a fantastic one growing in our garden and suddenly it died because there was no water. Anyway,
Yeah.
it was about 20 foot tall as well. So it was already quite big. Sorry, yeah, that's a sort of diversion, but I think that's just the point that there are tree wardens. I think 2009 was a tree that was when the whole thing started in the UK. But I think the government were trying to encourage by giving grants to councils to get back into that sort of thing with the woodland officers supporting it. But it is, as you say, only a 2-year arrangement, which they're hoping will carry on. But that depends, I think, on how successful they are in getting more trees into the county. Probably why they're suggesting willows.
There was talk that parish council projects that are supported by a tree warden stand a better chance of getting funding.
Mm.
Right. Yeah.
But that is one of the other issues for the project, because these trees are not hugely expensive. If you're going to have a little tree, I mean, it's only about £30, so I'm sure people aren't going to want to spend hours trying to get a grant for £30. Be easier to have a whip round, but they are small and they are vulnerable, and they're going to take a long time to get to be something big. So that's the other issue with our scheme. These things are not great imposing things from day one. They do need a lot of care, and also they're vulnerable to being snapped off. That's
vandalized,
vandalized. Yeah. So they need, digging the hole, you don't need a sort of 100-foot square hole to put these things in. It's got a small hole, but it needs to be proper preparation, and people need to understand what's required in that respect. But actually having some sort of barrier around them that needs to be constructed is probably a bigger thing to think about, how to build that or how to protect them. And
there must be examples of that around, though, of how to protect a small tree rather than just a tree sleeve, because that would get snapped off anyway. So you need something. Nothing
like, I'm thinking of a sort of like an. So I think the thing that goes round the tree might be more expensive than the tree itself, is what I'm saying. Because you can have a little tree that everybody looks after, and maybe it needs a kind of, I don't know, ornamental wooden pail or something around it. That might be more of an issue for our trees, I think, especially if there's someone like a village green. I mean, if they're up in a plantation, people don't trudge all the way up to a plantation to snap a tree off.
So we need
they do on a village green.
Early years protection.
Protection for trees, and have a look at that. We need to look at what's possible. Something ornamental, or something somebody rigs up around it, or that doesn't look too hideous. I've just put something in the chat, actually, talking about different types of trees as we got onto that, which is, I've been in touch with Kew Gardens, because there's been a expedition to Romania, seed collecting expedition to Romania. I don't know if anybody's heard about that or heard it on the radio. And this is with a view to collecting seed of different species, different variants of our trees that are growing in more arid, stressful conditions. So the talk was actually about oaks, so they've been collecting seed of oaks, but there still are species of oak, but they are variants which are much more drought and extreme conditions tolerant. So I need to find out if there's anything being done on that score for elms. And what was mentioned on the BBC Live clip it's at 1 hour 48. You don't have to listen to the whole 3 hours. Hopefully put the time when it comes up on. What was mentioned as being vulnerable to climate change is beach, which I've had on my back of my mind for a long time, that beaches are going to be very vulnerable to climate change, and query whether people should be discouraged or not to encourage planting beech. We've had a lot of beech planted here recently, and unless it's going to be well watered or in a very sort of damp position, query whether that's going to be a bit of a waste of time. So I think we need to know where elms are on that gradient as well, and I confess I don't as yet, but that's just something that's come across my radar very recently.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking about oaks, because I know that I don't know what sort of oaks they are, but there are several types of oaks, are there not?
There's loads. I mean, across the world, there's hundreds of oaks, I think. But
hundreds of types,
yeah. But this is collecting seed of the same species, but a different variant that's growing and obviously resisting and evolved in its own place in Romania, where it's.
Sorry, the same species as what?
Our native oak.
Oh, right. Okay. So English oaks.
English oaks, okay. Yeah. Well, we call them English oaks, but apparently in France they call them French oaks, and probably in Romania they call them Romanian oaks, as we do. But it's the same as with St. George, he's our saint, but he's everybody else's as well. So, so the whole point of it, and this is what I found out when I started this project about elms, because I thought elms were basically all the sort of same clone, and it was all the same thing, but there's hundreds of different types of elms. So before elms were killed off, each parish had its own sort of elm that's suited, because they query how they got there, but each elm had a parish perhaps had an elm that did well where they were. So there's hundreds and hundreds of different sort of subdivisions, which I hadn't appreciated.
Okay, so
the ones that are from Spain, this has led me to think, just coming up with this recently, the ones that are from Spain, I would have thought are going to be more climate resistant. Hopefully they will also be beetle and disease resistant. So that's what we're looking for.
Yeah. I mean, we're obviously dipping into a very deep pool of.
We are. Yes.
I think, yeah. So from the simple, let's plant some elms and make them iconic elms within your parish, to choose one out of 100 types of elm, and some of them will look like this, and some of them will look like this. Which one do you like?
Well, the first thing is, do people care? Because if they don't care what it looks like, we don't need to worry about it. If people want to talk about the elm and the project they did, that's fine. But do they really mind? Not everybody will mind. You've got to find out what they actually want, haven't you? You've got to find out what people want and are expecting, rather than obsess about something that might only worry you.
We won't obsess about it.
Okay.
Ian.
Now, just pointed to me, there was an elm replanting done at Lark Hill in 2018. They planted the Spanish trees, so it might be interesting to find out how they got on and what their expectations were.
Oh, okay. Do you know who did it and where it is?
Hang on, I've just been passed it on somebody's phone. It comes through from Lark Hill and Bulford. Tell you what, if I can look at it in more detail, and I'll pop it over to you later. Okay. So I can't do it too quickly. I think it was Wiltshire Elm Group. Do you know Wiltshire Elm Group?
Sounds like us.
No, I thought that was us.
Well, they say this was 2018. They were planted at Hexagon Wood, Lark Hill.
Okay.
They also planning to do some in the community areas.
But just, how did they get on? What do they look like? If we could show
who's your contact there, Ian? Who's
Jackie picked it up off a internet search while she's sitting on here on my right.
Oh, I see. So you haven't got any special contact?
No, not a personal contact. Just
okay, right, okay.
So it's a good idea to find examples of where it's been done in the country.
Definitely,
yeah. If your supplier has given it to farmers and farmers have planted 100, it'd be great to see them in the state they're in. If they've been in for 2 or 3
mm.
years, we could start to get a picture of how fast they grow and everything else. So
Yeah,
I think he should be able to tell us. You know,
yeah,
he's supplying them. He should be able to tell us where they're going.
yeah. Actually,
And
I mean, that makes me think it would be good to say, you know, you're going to plant this after so many years, it would be like this. And then
yes,
if
yes,
we could
exactly.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's a very good idea. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm.
Right. So get us back to basic points. No one else got any?
Yeah, just a quickie. I mean, there
Okay.
are projects that have gone before us, I think. Hereford, for example, is one where they've done a lot of, you know, a county-wide scheme. So that's one we could probably do the rock for. I sent some links to that in the early days of the project. I need to dig it out again if you.
Mm.
The other thing I was going to point out that Enid has asked a question in the chat. Is it possible to obtain or buy larger trees? Do you know anything about the sizes of trees we're getting?
If you just bear with me, sorry, pour on the tech, and I should have thought of this in advance, but I'm getting there. Bear with me.
Inside the tree she bought.
Yeah.
You're trying to do.
Take it moving and
But then you get
Right. Bear with me 1 second.
Well, Enid has actually volunteered to deal with Larkhill, as she's put in the chat. So if we've already got if you're close to that, then Enid, that's brilliant. If you can do that and feedback, it'd be excellent.
Good old
Oh, sorry, I can't see you on screen at the moment because I'm looking at something else. If I could just mention.
Close to it. Just
Again,
ask
Ian?
around. Sorry, I beg your pardon.
No, you've gone again.
Where
Are you
are
looking
you,
for
Ian?
suppliers? Mute.
I'm just
Sorry,
looking at my email from my supplier. Okay. So the
Hang on, Mel wanted to say something.
I just
sorry,
wondered
can't
if you
see.
were looking, sorry, were you looking for suppliers? Because Lamford trees in our area do supply established trees. They're not cheap,
No.
and obviously Hillier do as well.
Yeah, but they would be bigger ones, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
I thought you were asking for bigger ones. Somebody was asking for bigger ones.
Well,
Yeah?
that's. Do people want?
Enid
You
is
know how
asking,
much
so we're
they
trying to
are,
answer the
Mel?
question.
Have you got any ideas to
Well,
what you see? Have you seen any?
very. I mean, you're talking probably 60 to 100. You know, for an
Yeah.
elm tree, if it's an established one, it's
Yeah.
quite a lot. But I mean,
Not
I
that
just
much.
pointed out in earlier that the Woodland Trust do give out these whips, which are well worth, you know, native trees. I mean, you can use them in hedges, or you can use them as
Yeah, I think that's a different thing. If we're going to plant a lot of trees, then the whips are a good idea, and we'll come on to that in a minute. And certainly we've done some in our village in the hedgerows.
Yeah,
planted
yeah, exactly.
Intermediates in the hedgerows.
Okay, sorry.
But are they resistant ones, Mel?
Oh, well,
What the whips?
Mm.
Well, put it this way: we planted 2 hedges last year in our village, and despite the weather, only about 6 out of about 150 have died. And I've got replacements because I've got a little tree nursery in my garden, actually, which I kept the spares in, so I can replace them. Yeah, it's well worth going to the Woodland Trust. They've got a lot of good stuff there, if you don't mind them being small. And the argument is, if you get them small, they grow faster, actually.
Yeah.
Well, if I could just tell you what these ones are. It is about the disease resistance as well, because if they're just going to come up and be knocked back down, then that's not much help to anyone. So the ones I've got quoted are about 4 different types, and they're sort of small from 125 centimeters up to 250 centimeters, but they're only about £20, so they're small things.
I mean, I think the main reason they die is because of water, lack of water. It's not to do with disease, it's lack of water. But they have to be watered a lot.
Yeah, that's in the initial stages, but
yes,
in the later stages, then if they're not resistant to Dutch elm disease, the Dutch elm disease will get them later. Yeah, and they won't get very tall. They'll only get sort of head height or something like that, I think.
I want to go a bit further afield. I was just looking up. We bought a lilac a couple of years ago from Chew Valley Trees, who've got a lot of mature, well, not mature, semi-mature trees, but they are expensive. I mean, we paid 80 quid for a 6-foot high lilac. So once you start growing them over years, they become quite expensive things. So Mel, keep your seedlings in the back. You might make a fortune one day.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, if you can persuade your parish to pay for a £100, £200 tree, the big issue then is making sure it survives, because it is as people are saying, it's got to be watered, and they are slower to take than a very small tree is. A whip is. That's why you can go along a healer whip in, and 90% of them survive. Whereas when you start growing them bigger, they don't. And the ones we've got in our hedges, we put them in 2 years ago. I can't remember it was a variety of things, which local, and they're 6 feet high now. So then that's in 3 years, and they started out like whips at 2 foot. So I think it's.
By the way, I've got loads of oak trees. If anybody wants any.
Got oak trees.
Yeah, loads.
Well,
I've got 3 very mature oak trees at the bottom of my garden, and they produce seedlings all over the place. They're very easy to grow.
Well, if anybody wants ash trees, Hazel, for example, I will pot up the hundreds of ash seedlings that come up in my garden from my neighbours. Ill-advised trees.
Maybe we should start a nursery.
Yes, perhaps that's the best thing we could do.
We're diverted. Can we go back to the beginning and say, how are we going to get this information out to the widest possible audience? Every parish council in the county. I've got the list of parish council contacts, so we can use that. And how do we? I mean, your 6-sided, your threefold leaflet is excellent hard copy. But it depends on whether people can print them. I can print mine double-sided and I can fold it. So I actually can do that. That's fine. But I'm not sure everybody can do that on their printers.
No, I mean, we don't want to be sort of. I wasn't thinking we would be handing out loads of those, but I think more that's for going on notice boards or something with the poster with one side or the other side, or a stock or something small. And I think we need some more material that is on the web, will links into what's on the website, or the poster says,
Okay.
Because we're not into a leafleting campaign, are we? We're not doing that.
Well,
as such.
I think we could, to an extent, we might be. We can give them to our parish councils and let them.
Oh yes, to the parish council, but we're not.
Or even our tree wardens.
Yeah.
And let them distribute them.
But we need to think about numbers and logistics of actually getting those out. It wouldn't be a huge number. I mean, I'm thinking more online is more. You see something, and but I think I need a bit more. It's not my forte, knowing how people get to know about things now, because I don't do social media and stuff like that.
Well, the social media and we need to just get social media involved in getting it out there as well. So
that's what I'm thinking.
That's a separate discussion with probably Julie.
Yeah.
So we'll have a chat with Julie about that. Another thing for me to do. So I've got to try and get hold of her now. She's hopefully back in action. Okay. So
with regard to parish council,
where do we go next, Claire?
Well, with regard to parish councils, what I would like is if people are on their parish council or a link to their parish council, that's a much better way to approach them, to get some anonymous email that goes, in the 20 emails that come that day. So first of all, I'd like to know if anybody. Some people have contacted me already and said, that they're councils or whoever are interested. So anybody who does have that link, I'd like to know. So I don't know if we can ask. Can we ask for that generally on the general mailing list?
Yeah, we can do. Yeah, yeah.
Because, you know, not that they're going to get involved, those people, not with a view to involving those people, but with a view to those people, you know, putting up the poster or whatever it is, or mentioning that this is going on, just as a one-off.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we need to contact those councils, and I'm hoping that someone knows how to do that. I don't, or if we've got all the addresses on there.
Well, I've got all the emails addresses of the whatever it is, 190
Yeah.
parish councils. Yeah, but that's doing your anonymous dump to people we don't know. I mean, if your first step is to try and use people who already have contacts with a parish council, then presumably we all have a parish council. And even if the whatever it is, 10 of us here do it, then that's 10 councils contacted, and I'm happy to do mine.
Okay.
So if everyone here commits to talking to their parish council, we'll actually have 10 councils sort of thinking about it, and maybe that'll spread the word to other councils. So maybe the other option, although possibly less productive in my view, is talking to the area boards. Because the area boards tend to be the 4 or 5 councillors in your area talking to each other, because I've been to a few and it's only them and whoever is asking for some money from the area boards there. So I'm not sure how much they would distribute the information. I know our councillor area board, she comes along to our parish council meetings and gives us feedback from the area board meeting, but I'm not sure many of councillors do that. So, you know, I would say mine would distribute it to 5 other parishes. So I will speak to her personally because I know her. And I'll ask her to do it. And if other people know people from their area boards or their local councillor who might be able to help, we should do that too. Because the councillor may talk to another parish. And so, you know, my councillor looks after, I think, 4 parishes around Westbury. So, you know, she'll talk to all 4 of them and say this, to tell them about it. But we then need 1 contact point. And the choice we've got is, Claire, you have a Wiltshire Climate Alliance email address, and they all go to you in that, or we put them at contact at, which is more general. But you don't get a copy of it. You're not signed up with that at the moment at all. But the trouble with that is you get everybody who sends an input, general stuff to Wiltshire Climate Alliance, which wouldn't be helpful for you trying to sort of sift through things.
I think Julian was suggesting a particular email, weren't you, Julian? How would that work in practice? You said, oh, I can't hear you, Julian, you're muted.
Sorry, yes, for the leaflet, I was just suggesting creating a trees@WiltshireClimateAlliance.org.uk. And that would just be an email that would distribute to whoever we wanted it to, and could also go into a central mailbox so that we can, you know, collect emails there and refer back to them.
Yeah.
Let's do that then.
Let's do that, because I mean, Jane, hi Jane, you all right? So you know, Jane and I have been you know, maybe Jane and I could be getting those. Would they explain that to me again, Julian? Sorry, we would have to go looking for the emails, or we would get the emails on your system?
It's up to you. I mean, I always prefer it if it just, you know, redirects them, you know, forwards them to my ordinary email. But
yeah, that's what I prefer.
Have a mailbox they can go and look at. But yeah, so it can be both.
Yeah. Okay.
So if you set it up and forward it to Claire, get it redirected to Claire, then that'll solve the problem, and it gives 1 point for us all to give out.
Yeah.
And
we should put it on.
I think it should be more than just me, in case you know, whatever happens to me, I don't know.
Okay, who's going to volunteer to help Claire?
Jane, I'm hoping.
Jane's volunteering.
Jane's. Yeah.
I think I'm somehow late to this meeting. I didn't realise it started before 7. Forgive me, I didn't mean to be late.
That's all right. You've just volunteered for the most important thing, so that's all right.
No, I'm here to support you, Claire.
Late but effective.
Excellent. So we've got 2 people now who are going to be actually contacted for
That's
it,
right. then.
which
That's
is
good.
excellent. But Julian, oh, sorry, Claire, we need to get that email address onto your leaflets and the posters.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so if you could do that, that would be
Yeah.
good. And Julian needs to send what it looks like to you, so you can put exactly what the email is. He'll probably put it in the chat now if I know him.
Yeah.
But,
Well, Julian's already suggested an email, so you can do
Yeah,
that,
okay.
Julian, can't you? Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Excellent.
Yeah, I mean, we also want a web page really,
Mm.
because that's somewhere that people can go and look and see the latest. So that I'll set up as well.
Yeah, that's where I'd like Julie's advice a bit more about the web page.
I mean,
well, if we set one up for now
Yeah.
and let Julie modify it, we just got
Tinker
to have
with it,
something
yeah.
now.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah.
so really, I mean, it's just what the content that you want to put on it.
Yeah.
Just something that I'll put it on and
Yeah.
sort of tidy it up and make it formatted, formatted suitable for a web page. That's
Yeah.
And then
Okay.
if it comes very elaborate, then Julie might want to do some more things. But
Okay.
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 So
So
go back to the question from Margaret. My town council are waiting for an update. Answer: how are we going to update devices?
well, Margaret, this is the thing. If you're sent leaflets, can you print out 10 leaflets, for example, or can you not? That sort of thing, to give them to the people involved there, or because they need to be in touch with me and Jane, don't they?
Yeah. If I got a leaflet to the committee on the town council that's to do with sustainability and biodiversity,
Yeah.
and that's the people that I briefed a couple of months back, then they will pick it up and run with it, because they've at that meeting they have all the folk from parks and all the people who plant trees in the town council and or for the town council, so the officers thereof. If I take it along to that meeting and say, here you are guys, this is your point of contact, they'll then say, okay, how much is it going to cost us? Because hey, that's what all councils always say. And I don't know, because it depends on how big the trees are that that we're offering, and how many they think they need, and etc. Because they were waxing lyrical about how hard they had tried to save the big elms that they had, and they failed. So they want something that will work.
Do we need to, sorry,
go on,
I'm going
Jim.
to say, do we need to have a sort of template proposal of what what it might cost a council to have a tree and the year's care for it, or something? We can just say expect to cost you £300 in the first year or something.
Yeah, well, they know how to look after trees, so they will look after a tree if they have it.
Yeah, but
and they would probably rather plant it themselves as well, rather than have a Joe Soap turn up and plant it, because they think they know how to plant trees. And actually, they've done pretty well along Windsor Drive. They only lost 2 or 3 of their little trees, and they've been replaced. So
when you say little, Margaret, how little were their trees?
About 5 foot tall, I suppose.
Oh, they are little trees. Yeah.
So around yay much.
Yeah.
With little protecting things around them, as well as the swirly bit.
Yeah.
But I'm not even sure they had swirly bits. They might have been bigger than. But they put up a former around it to protect it from, well, presumably traffic, because Windsor Drive is the relief road.
That's what I was talking about, really. Yes, for a different reason. Yeah.
No, they have to have concrete crash barriers around them to protect it from traffic.
No. Yeah.
So that's quite a special situation, isn't it? So in that situation, somebody needs to be in contact with me or whoever and be more, be quite clear about what it is they want to do.
Yes.
'Cause each
Well, they
person's
wouldn't want to
situation-
put a big iconic tree on Windsor
No.
Drive.
No.
The stuff that they've put on there is sort of, oh, it's got little red berries. Yeah.
Oh,
There are lots of
small
trees
bits
that
of
have little
things,
red
yeah.
berries.
Mm.
But they were talking about going to local landowners who had lost an iconic tree and providing them with a replacement and looking after it, turning up with the bowser to water it, that sort of care, because they're the Parks Department after all.
Okay, so but
that needs
I like
quite
it.
a bit of correspondence, doesn't it, to be quite clear what it is they had in mind. That's not going to be the same for other people who want to do things, is it? That's
No, but
specific.
it would be a good model.
It would be a good start, wouldn't it? It'd be a great
Yeah.
start, yeah.
And also, I do think Ian's right that if I walk into my parish council and say, why don't we plant some elm trees, iconic ones across the village, I'll say, how much and how high? And I think we just need to get some basics. Is a 5-foot tree going to cost us 30 quid or is it going to cost us 300? I don't know. No idea. So I think it's really, really important that we give that real, and we can't guarantee that's the price that they will give, but that's the order of magnitude. Yeah. So I really do think we need that.
Well, I've got it for these smaller ones, but I haven't got it for the big ones. But
yeah. When you say smaller, what do you mean by smaller?
Well, I'll go back to the
6 inches, 2 feet,
250 centimeters. Where am I? Hang on.
2.5 meters.
Yeah, but it's still small, isn't it?
Well, that's quite a big, to me, that's quite a big tree
200
already.
to 250 centimeter, tall, bare rooted, 26 plus fat, 175 centimeters, 18 plus fat, and so on and so forth. So then that sort of price. There's various ones, different types.
Well, again, I think that's something we should put on the website.
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah.
Because then we'll say, look on the website for more detail, and that's what we can have on.
Yeah.
there.
Oh yes,
Really.
no. This needs to go through so that we got that specific information. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Does that help, Margaret? Sounds like we've got a plan there.
It'd be great to get started. It'd be excellent. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
so-
I'm sure they'll be quite happy to be a sounding board because they were really enthusiastic about the other biodiversity that they have lost due to the loss of the elm trees.
Yeah.
So that they can actually do joined up science.
What the knock-on species and so on, is that what they're
Yeah, that's, I mean, again, it's if we have as a story for the press, as somebody was talking about, we could have all of that for devices, boosting devices, of course, but also giving us the boost that says this is the sort of thing we can facilitate. So I just like it as a story, really, that actually this is what's happening, and we go through this whole process, and devices are now planting 20 elms.
Yeah, but we've just got to watch that because we've only got a planting window. You could do devices this winter, and then you'd be waiting till next winter to trumpet what you've done in devices. So you just got to watch that timescale.
Yeah, and so some of these will be, some of these won't be going until 2025, will they? So end of 24 anyway. So I think if we're aiming for the next window, it would be 24 because
January 24 is
no, I'm talking about I'm talking about December 24, January 25 then, because by the time we get this all out to the council and they have responded and they thought about it, we'll be in February and March. It will take 3 meetings of my parish council to decide to do it.
Okay.
I just okay. And 2 other things in the chat. Enid says she's got 2 councils. Brilliant. Okay. So that's good. I think it'd be good to know which councils we're contacting. Mine's Stilton. And perhaps we should be feeding that back to you as well as we get council names. So if we've got the email address handy to put into the chat, Julian, is that possible, or is it too early for that?
Sorry, what do you want in the chat?
The email address you suggested.
Okay.
Whatever it was.
Yeah.
If you put it in the chat now, we can start feeding stuff in. But if all of us have contacted our parish council, we say we have contacted X parish council, and then actually that gives Claire an idea of the amount of likely things. And if there's only, even if there's only one, that's 10, or 2 is 20, you know, and there's going to be 20 in Devizes, and somebody else is near Salisbury, Claire, maybe you'll plant 200. I don't know. So I just think it's good to say we've got action in these parishes, and then you can start to map that out. You know, at the very beginning we were talking about what was I? Yeah, using plotting elms in the county, so we can actually plot. Are you going, Andrew, or are you just wanting to wave to us? Bradford on Avon, Andrew. Elms, contact them, and you're muted.
Oh, Andrew says he's got to go. Climate friendly Bradford and Avon, meeting down the road shortly.
Okay. Right. That's a lot of things to do now, Claire.
Yeah.
We've
Yeah,
got
that's
a
all
lot
right.
of action there.
No, that's really good because
Sorry, I couldn't
I
seem
need-
to unmute. I've got to go. Bradford and
Yeah.
Avon, I recognise that phrase. Let's talk again. This meeting and Climate Friendly Bradford and Avon's monthly meeting always clash. So that's a shame, but this was earlier than that.
Okay.
I'm sorry, cycling a bit late right now. It's
See you
obviously
later.
brilliant. Thanks, guys.
cheers. Thanks, Henry. Right. So
I think we're there. I think if we
yeah,
stop now,
yeah,
because
we've got enough.
otherwise
Yeah, otherwise
got
it's just too
loads
much.
of
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
But just going off to item 2 quickly, Ian and Jane Cooksey, you both went to the tree wardens event. How do you think it went?
Brilliantly.
Yeah?
Really good. Met loads of people. They've got such a good plan. They've got this, it's called GAPS, which means grant application project for trees to be planted all over the county and get the number up to 17% from current 14% tree cover. And Paul Robertson is the landscape officer, and he's got 3 people they've got on grants for 2 to 3 years. And there's 3, 1 north, 1 central, and 1 southern, will be mapping and looking at all the trees and getting involved in the project. So I've got names for various projects like the Pemberton Heath and Friary in Salisbury, Studley Green, anybody know that, in Trowbridge, and Harden Hewish and Queen's Chip. A special rundown brown sites that they want to plant trees on. And they've got plant trees and they're getting money for orchards as well. So, and they want us to go into their mapping project, which you're just talking about. There's somebody called Emma Glover who's doing a complete map of any trees we get planted in this period. So,
is there Emma Glover one of the woodland officers then?
Yes. Well, the woodland, there are 3 woodland officers, Terry Offen in the north, Caroline Ruth in the middle, and Naomi Stiles in the south. And you can contact them through the GAPS. And
So this is different.
Claire and I about the Elms project in Salisbury for a coffee and had a good chat a while ago, and said, look, get involved with us as well, you know, because there's lots of different trees and other people might want them. But we said we would keep focusing on elms, but I said I'd help. That's how I got involved in becoming a tree warden. And it's kicked off in my area. There's about 6 of us roughly in the south planning to meet. We haven't managed to meet, but the idea is to help Wiltshire Council get more trees planted. So Elms for All and Claire's project is, you know, right up their street.
Yeah. Okay, so how Ian, you had, what do you think of, what did you, Ian said,
I was,
well, Claire?
yeah, I was at the same meeting as Claire, so basically all the same thing. I mean, my local parish, we've just got 4 of us together. There's talk of getting community orchards and so on, but I don't think the land we've got available is going to be suitable for elms. It's too small. But the hope is that we can take the ideas further and find out, link up with other parish councils and other tree wardens.
Yeah.
I think there's another tree warden recruitment event coming up in about a month's time.
Okay.
It'll
So
be
we'll
on the
publish
council.
that again then. Just for my benefit, if nothing, nobody else's. How did you learn about the tree warden scheme? Was it from WCA or was it from the council?
I think Jackie picked it up from WCA. Yeah.
Okay. I'm pleased to know that we're actually getting to people with things with their mail.
Bill, they also
Yeah.
came from Karen Lineker. Karen Lineker sends out a lot. The parish
Yeah.
council's got a whole load of stuff about tree warden training. That's
Yeah,
how I
okay.
heard about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't expect us to be the only source. It's just that we put it onto our mail newsletter and thought, you know, there may be a few people. I just want to know if there's something good comes out of our mail sometime, not just a blank.
Who's Carol
Okay.
Lineker now? Who's Carol Lineker?
She's she's sort of community. I can't remember what her exact, something like community development generally. She's worth cultivating, Karen Lineker. She does a lot of community stuff, and she's the liaison with the parish councils. Yeah.
So is she Wiltshire Council?
Yeah.
She's a council officer, so she's one of the.
I've got her email address if you're interested.
Mm.
I can pass it on to you.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that would be good. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm.
All right. So a question for me about to the tree wardens then. If Ian said earlier you're working locally, and you just said, Jane, that you've got 6 tree wardens in your area. How would you suggest we get hold of all 40 of them? Through the woodland officers, or?
Yes, I mean, if I emailed Naomi or Paul Robertson and said we wanted to contact every one of them, I think they probably would give us their emails.
Yeah,
they'd pass it. They'd do it the other way around, wouldn't they? They'd
pass it on.
We'd have to put something and say, please
There
give
is,
it to them, I think.
apart from the thing in a month, the thing that Ian's talking about, which is I think is a new intake, there is a plan to keep the tree wardens meeting up on a regular basis. Exclusively, and that not everybody comes to that event, but it does get everybody talking and saying we can do this, we can do that. So I can actually disseminate information about Elms for All whenever I meet any of these other tree wardens or talk on whatever, which I will do. Now we're up and running now, but we do need a kind of little extra brochure about costs and stuff that we can give people on an email and which would be on the website. So that they can actually already look, because I'm an Emma Chiswick person. As soon as somebody says something, how much is it, or Emma Chiswick, is what we really do need, that to be able to say, oh yes, here's your information. Not have to leave them to look at it and get going on this.
Yeah.
You see, I've got the costings, but these names, what I need to refine is the names, but I will send it out soon. But because how do you choose between these 7 different varieties? Do you see what I mean? That's what I need to just refine.
Yeah, okay, we get back to the other point.
You know,
about
it's like
knowing what they might look like.
Yeah, exactly. We're going around in a bit of a circle. Yeah, because
okay.
well, do I want to, this one or that one? How do I know?
Yeah.
So
okay.
I think the important thing is for us to have some good idea about size and stature and all the rest of it if we possibly can, because a lot of people might try and plant an elm in the wrong place. And one of the big things about being a tree warden is making sure people plant the right tree in the right place. But like Ian said, you don't put an elm in an orchard. You might put it on the edge perhaps, and they are on the non-sunny sides and don't really orchard. But you really need the sort of open playground area on the edge of the village green or somewhere up a hill for a big tree like an elm. And that's something we need to keep our eyes on, and that we make sure people know what they're buying into.
And you don't plant an ash right beside your neighbour's greenhouse, I might add.
Okay, so I'm getting overwhelmed with stuff, so I'm being careful here. So the potential for knowing what the tree is, we come back to that. The potential for knowing what the price is. Obviously, having said, does it matter? It does. So we need a bit more information.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you're going to be busy over the next week or so, Claire.
yeah. That's fine. That's fine. I just I can see.
Yeah.
I'm gonna if I just send out the price list, everybody's going to say, well, what are they? So that's no good, is it? I want to anticipate the questions, which has been really helpful because now I'm anticipating the questions, so I can answer the questions myself and hopefully have less feedback of something I should have dealt with in the first place. Thank you, everyone. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So the final. So tree wardens. I think we do need help. And maybe if I talk, I don't know who to speak to, Paul Robertson or one of the others, but we want a little session, not with everybody, but just to get a better feel for the regime needed and that sort of stuff, and more advice on where they can be planted and all that sort of stuff. Whether the woodland officers could do that, I don't know, and really it's a question about whether for devices, saying that it's gone, but whether the bigger towns have their own public gardens management teams, like Salisbury does. Devices obviously does Chippenham, does Bradford, I don't know. But obviously they are clearly more knowledgeable about where things can be planted. And when we get to the small parishes, like mine's a parish, 1,000 people, you know, and we've got smaller parishes, obviously. How do you deal with all of the things that we need to give advice on? And I think it's just saying, let's get hold of somebody who can give us some very rounded, broad advice on trees and whatever. See whether that helps us. Okay. Lot of notes taken. I don't know if I can spit them all back at you, Claire. I'll try. And I've probably, Julian's done the usual and taken some as well, have you? Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Good, so we've got some action. The final thing I'd like to spread the word on is this 190,000 trees needing planting in Stourhead. I'm going to put it out on a wider network at some point, but
Did you say Stourhead?
yeah.
Well,
yeah, there's an 80-hectare area, and they're going to plant 190,000 trees. That'll bring up the percentage in the county, won't it? Now I don't even know whether the woodland officers know about it, but it's taken the guy 5 years to get permission to do it all. He's got a little machine which has been converted from a lettuce planting machine or something, which drills a hole and drops the trees in and fills them up again. And all you've got to do is sit on the back of this machine, putting 4 trees in, drills the holes, put them in, and moves on. So it's not the usual dig a slot, drop them in and heel it in. It's big time. But he needs some volunteers to stick on the back of the tractor and do this. So I'm just pointing it out at the moment. I will be putting something out.
Bill, can I ask, Bill?
Yeah.
Can I ask, what's his process for aftercare watering? Because all these tree projects, the statistics are horrific. 85% die because they don't get watered. They must be watered through the following.
I have no idea. All I'm doing at the moment is saying he wants to plant 190,000 trees and needs some help. If he's planting 190,000 trees, he spent 5 years trying to do it, I would think, and I haven't spoken to him for a couple of years, but he did come back because he joined WCA right at the beginning, then vanished, and he's been trying to get his project through. I will talk to him and try to get a bit more information out of him, and then I will put it out publicly. But if people are interested, then having a bit of fun sitting on the back of a tractor, it's our head. It's on a big area field. I think it's to the sort of southeast of Stourhead itself. So it's adjoining, and it's going to have public footpaths through it and rights of way and all that sort of stuff. So it's not going to be a private woodland. It's going to be a public area, which presumably will get linked into Stourhead, the bigger Stourhead area. So once the trees are big enough to let people walk through. But I just thought it was a great thing for us to do. The only thing I'm a bit worried about is whether it's going to be just commercial trees, and that's another thing I was going to ask him, whether it's just for you know, growing, cutting, you know, that's not necessarily a problem, but it does mean that potentially it's a monoculture tree. But I don't think so from what he was saying. So I'll get more information. Once I've got more information, I'll bang it out there to the wide.
I mean, that's really important, because this is a big feature of the elm disease. Was all this mass production of elm seedlings, and you know, it's like any other sort of pandemic. You know, you stick thousands of elms together. Ash trees. Sorry, I'm talking about ash trees. You stick a load of things together, and you have an epidemic. You know. So,
but what I was thinking
very
was
unlikely this way. That's what he's doing.
A potential benefit for him of us coming on and planting trees would be, we would say, we would like you to make 10% of your woodland elms. I don't know whether that works with elms or not.
That would be a lot of elms, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would. Yeah, 10%. It's 1,900 elms.
I wonder if planting so many, the calculation
it may be 1% or 2%. It's just an idea I had that says, look, for our voluntary, we'd like you to plant some of these.
No, I was referring to the dying problem. You know, are you proposing to plant so many on the basis that perhaps 10-20% survive? You see.
Yeah.
No, that might be the calculation, mightn't it?
Well, in 80 hectares, if you got not 80% dieback, it'd be a lot of waste, a huge waste of money.
But if you had a drought, that's perfectly feasible, isn't it? How would you possibly water them?
Well,
I tell you how you water them. You get
it's an area with lakes and lots of streams. It's called Stourhead because you got all these water.
Ideal place for willows there. But yeah, what was I going to say? It'll come back to me. Forgotten.
Okay, I'll keep you posted on that one, Blake. Thanks for that feedback, because we need to know the details before we actually commit, because we want to know we're actually planting stuff that will survive and will represent a mixed woodland rather than just a monoculture. Also,
is this where we need some younger people? I'm recovering from my last ill-advised accident. I'm not seeing on the back of a thing bouncing up and down.
Oh dear. Well, maybe we do, and maybe we'll get that out of advertising it. I don't know, but I'm happy to sit on the back of a tractor for a few hours planting some trees. That's like, and then hopefully a free access to Stourhead for 2 years.
Oh well, now you're talking.
Anyone who volunteers gets a free access to Stourhead for 2 years. But if you're a National Trust member, you get it anyway.
I don't know if there's such a thing as an organic orchard, but of course there's this woofer network who normally do work in the summer, but they presumably don't have much to do in the winter. You know who I'm talking about? There's a network of people that volunteer on organic farms.
Oh, are there? Okay. They probably go back to Romania or whatever. Okay, I'm going to go now.
Actually, that's the point. Sorry, Bill. That's the point. The apparently the Wiltshire Wildlife Trust, who I'm a member of, they use a lot of refugees because they're allowed to do voluntary work. And so they're just, you know, there's a lot of Ukrainians are not doing anything, so they're free to help with this sort of thing.
Yeah, it's disgusting. Sorry, it's disgusting.
I'm not sure Ukrainians is the right ones, because that's mostly mothers and children, and they're all working. I only know because I've got Ukrainians and they're all
sorry,
working.
not Ukrainians then. Whatever the other refugees are that are around, they aren't allowed to work.
I'm Syrians and all that.
Wrong
No,
Well
but
done.
not Ukrainians. No, don't.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
asking Ukrainians because in
And
my
the other
experience they
thing is-
work non-stop all day, every day. So
Yeah.
Well, that's for the county to sort out.
Mm.
Sorry, the other thing I meant to say was November's the best day for planting, best month for planting trees
It is.
for greatest success,
Mm.
because you then
Okay.
get all the winter rain usually.
Well, that takes back from January, and that comes back to, we won't be doing this for a year then.
Well,
that's
no, I
okay,
mean,
if we know it's
the
happening.
thing is, if you've just got one tree, you know, if you've got, or even just a half dozen tree, you can make sure it is a success. But you're quite right, Mo. If you're doing a big scheme, you want to get as much winter rain.
Well, he's
But that's
asking
still.
now.
But even so, with the drought we had in June, even if you planted, like I planted the Queen's Green canopy tree in November, December, I had to water it in June. I just had to water it in June. And then I didn't have to water it at all. It was brilliant after June. So
Okay. Right, notes time.
okay.
All right. Thank you, Claire. It was a
Thank
good
you,
meeting,
everybody.
actually.
Yeah,
Really
thank
good
you, everybody.
meeting.
It's really helpful to, state the obvious that I haven't thought of. Thank you very much.